In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the bottom turn and how it sets the wave up. And by this we mean referring to rail surfing. So the importance of being on rail and how we can use the wave to our advantage, but more importantly that when we're on the rail, how the water flows around the board. In order to understand the fluid dynamics on how a surfboard's rail interacts with water, we need to understand how aeroplanes fly and aerodynamics. So we're going to jump into here and have a look at this. So the interesting thing is more about the wing and the wing shape, and more importantly, how air or fluid moves around the wing. It doesn't bounce off it, but actually follows it. So when water flows around a surfboard rail, it actually adheres to the rail, and that's where in surfing we get hold on the bottom turn. Now, there's two things that happens in surfing. On the bottom turn, you need your board to hold, but the concept of the bottom turn is to help you get lift to go back up to the top of the wave again. So what you got to understand is that water is drawing off the bottom. If we can tap into the lift part of the wave that is going up, that can help us go up, surfing will be more effortless. And to do this, we have to get our rail into the water. When going into a bottom turn, you want to do it at the part of the wave where water is drawing water up off the bottom. So that's the part of the wave that can give you lift. And the most simplest way that you can enact a bottom turn is simply by leaning over the rail. So the surfboard rail is round, and when you lean over the rail, and you can see there, my head is just off center. What happens is the board starts to accelerate because you start to reduce drag. So when you reduce drag, you can actually see the point of where the board's flat to how water starts spraying off the rail edge, creating that speed and drive. And it's a simple lean. When you lean in, the water sucks around the rail, giving you hold. Now, the more I lean over, the more weightless I am, and the easier it is for water that is being drawn up the wave face to lift the board higher up. And if we follow through with that, at the top of the wave, when I turn around and I come back down again, as much as the board is on rail, it's accelerating through the turn. And then what we want to do is try to minimize that transition where I'm standing on the board and start leaning again. So once you've minimized that transition, and it's as simple as shift your head over the toe edge rail, and right there, can you see the acceleration when the board is on rail? And the rocker of the surfboard is now positively geared where it's going to be accelerating up the wave face. So with a surfboard fin, water starts to flow around the fin, and it kind of can act like an airplane wing that when your board's in the water, it can help your board to turn. But if you're standing on top of your board, the left fin will cancel out the right fin, so that's pretty pointless. The correct way to think about this is that if you had a fish's tail, it could turn 45 to the left or 45 to the right, and by doing so could propel you forwards. If you turn any more than that, the fin would cause drag and slow you down, which means you have to do multiple little adjustments if you're using your fin for the bottom turn. But if you're using your rail for the bottom turn and you lean your head over the toe edge, the rocker, which will be slowing down, would start to reduce drag, and the curve of the board would help you turn. By leaning over the rail and getting your head over the toe edge, it's like riding a bicycle and leaning over the wheel, where the wheel rolls and the bicycle turns. The water same as the aeroplane, will stick to the round part of the rail, giving you hold on the bottom turn. And then the wave, which was drawing up, will help lift the board up to the top of the wave. So let's jump into a bad example of someone overutilizing the fin to try to get the job done. Here's our bad example, and you can see the surfer is moving the board quite a bit, but not getting a lot done. And the reason for this, it's almost like if you think about a fish's tail, it has to keep moving to generate speed and drive. Now here's the interesting thing. You can see if I map the outline of what he's done, and he's done another one, and another one, followed by another one. But then when we take it right back to the beginning, he's probably, and I'll change the color to identify this, he's probably only surfing a very small percentage of the middle of the wave and not really tapping into the draw off the bottom or the throw off the top. So the concept here is to surf more with speed and power and try to get that from the wave rather than the board. So if I play that one more time, you can see he's utilizing the fin, and almost over-utilizing the fin, but then the line that he takes is pushing him out onto the shoulder and a bit mid-face. So let's do a comparison between the previous wave and this one. So here I am taking off on a wave, and you'll notice that I utilize the wave for speed and not the fin. So I'm going downhill, creating the speed and the drive that I need. On the bottom turn, I simply lean over, I engage the rail, and if I zoom in here, you can see my fin is clearly out of the water, which means that I am more engaging my toe edge rail. So that Coanda effect is actually coming around the board, it's holding on the rail, I'm leaning over, which is like riding a bicycle using the rail to turn. And all I need to do is hold the turn for longer, and it takes me up to the top of the wave where I can then start twisting. And you'll also notice that when I go to the top of the wave, I then engage the heel edge rail. A lot of surfers make the mistake of standing on top of the boards, which looks more like that, and the board would be flat. Whereas if you look, I'm 90 degrees to my board. So in hindsight, I'm using my rail and that Coanda effect on the heel edge, and then also on the bottom of the wave, I'm using my rail and the toe edge and that Coanda effect, giving me lift and hold. So in surfing, there's that principle called surfing rail to rail. So here I'm doing a bottom turn and I'm on my rail, I go to the top and I transition, I'm on the rail. And you'll notice that when I come out of that turn, I'm from the heel edge, the transition flat is minimal, and then I'm on the toe edge there. So the more you can minimize the transitions between being on rail and doing the figure eight, and then being on rail and coming around, if you can reduce this time that you spend standing on the board, you're going to find that your board starts to accelerate because you're minimizing the drag. So if I clear that and we watch the turn, so from rail turn up to the top, then when I get to the top, I offer the wave the underside of the board so the lip can push the board and help redirect me back to the bottom of the wave. So again, this is a real nice clean example of where I'm not standing on the board, but my weight is shifted to the side of the board and I'm on my heel edge. By doing that and being on your heel edge, you can start to accelerate out of those turns. It's one of the biggest misconceptions in surfing that you're supposed to stand and balance on your board. Your board's got rocker. If you stand on it, that rocker is going to slow you down. So with an aeroplane, in order to fly, you've got gravity, you've got the thrust from the engines, You have to create lift, but you also have to reduce drag. So by leaning over the rail and being either on a toe edge or a heel edge, I reduce drag on the board, which makes the board accelerate. By leaning on the rail, the water sucks around the rail, which gives you hold on the bottom turn so that the board doesn't slide out. By leaning over the rail, it's the same as riding a bicycle. Where the rail rolls, the bicycle wheel rolls, and your weight will pull you up to the top of the wave. Water is also lifting up. And if we can tap into the energy that's going up by putting our boards on rail, that wave can help draw us up to the top of the wave where we want to do our turns. So the best surfers are minimizing their transitions where they are standing on the board, and they're surfing more rail to rail than your average surfers. They're not using the fins, they're taking cleaner lines, which are faster lines, which allow more leaning and thereby utilizing more of the wave's energy. So I hope this program's been really enlightening, getting you to not balance on your board, but to put it on rail and surf more on the pocket.